he told me how he had sat in the car, like crying and asking God. And now that you say that, that's probably when he was going to shoot himself. Like right before he was going to shoot himself is when he was pleading with God to give him a sign. Yeah.
We begin with breaking news tonight because the death toll from the pandemic continues to rise.
And the number one priority from our standpoint is the health and safety of the American people.
Church choirs silenced. Singing has been banned at all church services in California.
But we begin tonight with the growing concern as the toll from that deadly coronavirus now grows.
Nearly every state in the country has now been declared a public health disaster zone.
Growing up in New York, we grew up in we had a single mom, and we grew up in a very humble environment, you want to say. And there was all 6 of us, my grandmother and my great-grandmother, in a 2-bedroom apartment above the bar. So we spent most of our time in her bar. It was called Frank's Bar. The reason I came to Florida is because my grandmother that we had lived with was very abusive towards me, like incredibly abusive. And when I left to Florida, I found out later that the reason Tommy had left was because that same abusive situation or her behavior was then being taken out on Tommy. I believe Tommy started experimenting with alcohol and drugs. I think it was like 13, like a young kid, 12 or 13. But I found out that he's been like an addict and drinking and alcohol, but an addict for his whole adult life. And he just was really, really good at he was a functioning addict, which was scary because my dad was the same way. So I would just pray. I mean, it's the only thing I know what to do, because you can't, I learned with my dad, like you can't make somebody want to get better. And unfortunately, that's usually when they have no other choice but to get better. There was a moment where I was really having a conversation with God of just, I knew he wasn't a believer, and I knew that he would spend an eternity separated from God, and it was breaking my heart.
I had reached out a few times for help, even to my sister Maria. And she said something to me that is so important today that didn't make any sense when she had said how Jesus is pursuing me, and that eventually I'm going to be brought to my knees. And over the course of the next year and a half, my problems with alcohol and substance abuse worsened to the point where I was literally brought to my knees. In late 2019, in December, to where my wife had thrown me out of the house, changed the locks, told me I didn't deserve my children. In that same week, I was preparing myself to be fired and terminated from that career I mentioned that I had built from the basement. And so every day I wanted to do better. And each day that I failed at that, it was like digging your own grave, digging a deeper ditch every day. So where on the outside, to people looking at me, my wife, my children, my sisters, I'm sure it didn't look pretty, but it was hell inside. In that car, I just wanted it to end. Just wanted the hell to stop. While in that car crying and begging for some help, my phone kept going off, my cell phone kept going off from somebody that I had become friends with. And so he heard the pain and distress in my voice. And I'll never forget Moses trying to break through that crying, "Tommy, Tommy, Tommy, I want to tell you something." And I remember as belligerent as one could be. What? What are you trying to tell me? And he said, "Tommy, I want you to know that I'm a 33-year recovered drug addict and alcoholic." Where I was hopeless and couldn't see a solution or a way out, other than ending my life, there it was, real time. God had put somebody in front of me that knew what I was going through. Right then and there, I had instant faith, instant belief in Jesus Christ. Maria invited me to church over the course of 10 years to come to Potential Church. And I always disregarded it. In fact, I remember how much I used to mock and criticize this church. Our pastor, who speaks to my heart every single time I hear the man speak. I show up, I sit upstairs in the balcony. Maria foregoes her responsibilities that she has to sit with her brother. I remember not feeling any of that judgment that I always had towards this church. So I decided I'm going to come back. And I remember seeing a family in front of me, a husband, a mother, 2 girls and a son. Between the word that was being given about baptism and putting on a God jersey and watching this family sit in front of me, just watching the father hold his son who looked just like mine, I remember thinking, this is my home. I'm no longer bound by addiction or alcohol. I have an opportunity to break generational cycles in my own family with alcohol and drugs. And I'm just, where I was hopeless, I am so hopeful for the future.